Good evening, gentlemen. Nice talking to you again now. And today I'm going to focus on America. America, and in particular, Donald Trump. Now, people who are in America are staying there. But everybody knows if you want to see how you look, you have to look into the mirror. And who the local Americans cannot see the mirror. Somebody has to show them the mirror. The mirror are those people who are outside America. I happen to be outside America, though I have gone to America so many times, but the fact remains that I got a panoramic view of what's happening in America. I'll start with the 2016 election. Donald Trump won it fair and square, and then came the 2020 election. Now, here I have a point. Donald Trump lost, but he won 70 million votes. That you can't deny. Biden got more, okay. But there is a catch in this entire election. Donald Trump was leading when the votes were being cast at the hustings. He lost when the postal ballots were counted. Now, this is a dichotomy which has not been explained by anybody. Any research student will tell you that the ratio of people voting for X or Y candidate is generally the same whether they are doing the postal ballot or they're both voting at the booths. So there is some thought on this issue that Mr. Trump was perhaps short-charged and he lost the election. But having lost the election is not the end of the world. There are people who have lost the election and still come back. Though in America it is difficult. But Donald Trump has got some ace up his sleeves, and the ace is Mr. Biden himself. Biden, in the 3 years he's been there now, has looked completely like a fish out of water. He started things badly when he could have executed the Afghan retreat in a better manner, in a more dignified way. But the net result was a chaotic retreat, which many have referred to as the mother of all retreats. And the Americans ran away lock, stock, and barrel, and leaving the people who they supported behind and millions of dollars worth of weapons. So this is nothing but the wrath of God. And America, which had lost $3 trillion in Afghanistan, finally ended up nowhere, defeated. And the man responsible, Joe Biden. Of course, the negotiations were being carried out by Trump, but I'm sure if Trump had been there, it would have been an orderly retreat. And he would not have just thrown the towel and come away like Biden did. I thought he would have stayed there till time Karzai could have consolidated, faced up to the Taliban, and then left. It had to be a phased withdrawal, not a lock, stock, barrel that you just pack your bags and say, bye-bye, we are going. That's not the way. Then came the Ukraine war, which is again, as I've already pointed out, and not only me, so many American specialists have pointed out, think tanks have pointed out, including John Mishmer, that the war was instigated by the Americans. I'll not go into that detail because I made so many videos on this subject. It's basically when they expanded NATO, Russia was not going to accept it, and they wanted to incorporate Ukraine and Georgia into NATO. Idea was to ring Russia, try to finish it, have another bifurcation of Russia, a division, a breakup, and then Americans thought we'll have to rule the world, at least Europe. But they had a man called Putin, and he fought well. And all the stratagems launched by Biden failed. He was talking a lot. He even called him a murderer once, I think, if I remember correctly. And he used all sorts of four-letter words. And he was saying that Russia will be finished. He said, we are taking it out of the SWIFT system. We are economic sanctions, this thing, that thing. But America is now no longer the imperialist power like the British when they ruled the world for 200 years. There is other power center, and that is China and Russia. And there's a smaller power center in India. So you had to take some of these countries with you, and then only you could pressurize the Russians. So, as I told you, the trump card for Donald Trump is Biden. His performance is absolutely poor, and he has done so many things which have antagonized the Americans. You can't keep talking of Trump was the racist, Trump was this thing, that thing. I mean, it's got no relevance. Trump lost for a different reason. He lost, first of all, as I told you, the election is not clean. That maybe we can disregard it. But basically, it was the COVID which came up suddenly at a time when the Americans' employment rate was the lowest. And that played havoc. And of course, the people decided that, well, we don't want Trump. Fair enough, it's part of the game. And now we have Biden here. Now, 2024 is not very far away. There's going to be an election next year. And 2024 is going to be the watershed. I think I'll require someone with a lot of pro Biden enthusiasts, to say that Biden is going to sweep the election in 2024. I have my doubts whether he'll get the nomination also of the Democratic Party. I don't think he's going to get it. It's going to be a big problem for him because he hasn't done anything. It's a lacklustre point. He's not opposed the Russians. He's not supported the Ukrainians. He's going midway here and there, And when you're in the middle path, you end up nowhere. And then I don't think he has really calculated the risk involved in supporting Ukraine. He's put the entire American civilization at risk, destruction. I mean, you can just imagine how silly this man is. So they need someone who is sober, someone who is more adept. Not that Trump is the best man, but out of the bad lot, he's the best. He's the best of the lot. There are people opposing him in the Republican Party. We have now news that Nikki Haley is wanting to think of being a president. There's so many persons. But my view and my reading of the situation is that Trump, who led the renaissance of the party now, and who still has tremendous support in America, despite all what the people who have come from Ukraine, the expatriates, are talking here and there, he will get the nomination. And if he gets the nomination, the American public will have to decide they want to continue with a man called Joe Biden, because in my view, he's done enough in his life. In other words, he did nothing. He's got 50 years of public life, and I have yet to be told what was his contribution in these 50 years in the Senate or anything. I don't know. I like to be enlightened about it. And he's Roger the American image abroad. He's unable to tame India, which is going ahead with oil purchases from Russia. And he thought he'd be friends with China. You just imagine, this man, when he took over as president, the first thing he said is, China is not a rival, it's a competitor. What the hell is he talking, this man? And now China has sent all those balloons across into America. China is doing war drills, ready to invade Taiwan, and now he doesn't know what to do. So he's sending 2 aircraft carriers, and I can tell you 2 aircraft carriers don't win a war. You need manpower. And I've been repeatedly saying what Field Marshal Montgomery said. Is the infantry soldier which holds the ground. The Americans don't have that sort of strength to match China. But I'm now concerned more about Biden. So Biden has been opposing the Russians. Now I couldn't understand what's his problem. He would like hegemony over Europe. That's fair enough. But then there are countries in Europe who are at risk because Biden has led them up the garden path. Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, these countries have no meaning in this world. And it would have been better off if they had not allied with the Americans, lived their life properly, sort of made friends with the Russians, not acted as the agents of the Americans by joining NATO and positioning weapons ready and all that there. The French have, of course, realized their mistake, and perhaps they are the ones who are not supporting the Americans, even the Italians. But Germany is the bad egg. Germany is still thinking all Hitler is in power and we'll send over, like Hitler sent the Panther tanks, And what happened? We all know it. 10 million Germans died. So it's a reminder, the German Chancellor should well remember Everything is not honky dory that you say, oh, we are going to win the war, we are going to see Russia. It's not going to be easy. I think we are now at a very interesting stage, and the war is going to drag on. And I will say it's important that Donald Trump comes back. Now, what are his chances? As I told you earlier, he was done in by the election and then also by the COVID. Now, the COVID is not there, and American economy is going down, prices have shot up, and people must realize that the Ukraine war, there's got to be a price to pay. You don't get anything free. So there's inflation in America, and America should well concentrate on its own economy. I'm told they have a debt of about $30 trillion. Now that's a very big thing, and tomorrow, if that's in cash, America become bankrupt. So is this the contribution of Joe Biden? No, it's been continuing for the last 2 or 3 decades. But Trump had realized this, and he was going to stop it. He was the man who insisted that the Europeans pay for the upkeep of NATO. And he'd also realized that NATO is an obsolete organization. He had good relations with Russia's Putin. And he was a man who would chalk out a different path. He went and had 2 meetings with Kim Jong. And when Kim was there and Donald Trump was there, he didn't carry out any nuclear tests, and there was no saber rattling. And there's a good chance if Donald Trump had won, he would have tamed Kim, he would have been a pussycat or something, but definitely things would have been better than what they are now. Biden has bitten off more than he can chew. All his assumptions about China have been proved wrong. And can anybody deny that his son, Hunter Biden's had some very shady deals with China? It's very sad, but it's there. I don't want to go into it. There's so many people who've spoken about it. But I like to say more about Donald Trump. Trump is a fine man. He's got his faults. He's not God. He's got his faults. Somebody said he's a racist, he's this thing. I don't think he's anything like that. He had very good relations with Indian Prime Minister Modi, and there was a very nice Howdy Modi celebration when he was the president. And Biden has, of course, done nothing like that. Now, the next elections are due. The first thing is the nomination of the Republican Party. And I think Donald Trump, all things being equal, should get it. And if he gets it, the Americans have a choice. Do they want to go back to what Biden's been doing, keep on fighting in Ukraine, get your gas prices going up, this thing, that thing, continue? And fighting for what? Fighting for what? Why are you supporting all these small countries like Estonia and all? And I've already said so many times, tomorrow there's a nuclear exchange, these countries just be wiped out. Even England, I'm sorry that Rishi Sunak is, talking pretty nonsense sometimes, And they're egging on Zelensky. And Zelensky, I think, is a war criminal in my view. A man who instigates a war and once he keeps on fighting, destroying his people, 8 million refugees, just floating around Europe, country destroyed. What the hell is he planning? I have to be educated about it. What freedom is he talking of? There are so many freedoms. Freedom for hunger, freedom to live your life, freedom to enjoy life. Is that going to be there with Zelensky and this war going on? Because the fault is with the Americans. They expanded NATO. Russia didn't do it. They broke the promise in 2008, which Clinton had made to Yeltsin when he said no to Russia joining NATO. So Biden, I think, is about time that he was retired, he go home, and there's a good chance Donald Trump will come back. I'm not a supporter of Donald, I'm nothing in favor of him, but when you consider the scenario, you need someone who's more pragmatic, who's more modern, who doesn't keep living in the past, that I had the communist pacts against Russia, like Eisenhower, Sato, Baghdad Pact, all that's finished, it's over. You got to look fresh. So I hope, gentlemen, you like this video, particularly my American friends, and I'll let them all get together and see that Mr. Biden is sent home, and best of luck to Donald Trump. But then, in politics, nothing is certain. So, goodbye, gentlemen. I hope you'll like this video, share it with your friends. And I say, Jai Hind, God bless, take care.